So welcome to this latest video 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the GCSE Maths Past paper of November 2024 on the higher tier paper 1, which is a non-calculator paper. Now before we get started working through this paper, a little reminder that I'll include a question breakdown in the description below so you can see what topic each question relates to. So if you struggle on a particular question you can see what topic it is and then go back and review and revise that topic. I'll also include a link to the 162 Maths contents page which gives you easy access to all the GCSE lessons where it goes through each topic in greater detail along with topic tests, audits and other exam paper walkthroughs. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 says work out the value of 1.5 squared. So for this we just need to do 1.5 times 1.5, and we can do that by doing 15 times 15, which is 225. Then if we move the decimal point 2 places in, it gives us an answer of 2.25. For question 2a, it says complete the number machine so that y equals 4x plus 5. So in our first box we need to multiply x by 4 and then add 5. For question b, it says complete the number machine so that we've got 3x minus 24. Now here what we've done is we've done to multiplying by 3 last, which basically means that we have factorized 3x minus 24. So if I factorize that with respect to 3, then what I end up with is x minus 8 multiplied by 3. So starting with x, I take away 8 times 3 and it should give me y. Question 2c, it says complete the number machine so that y equals x. Well, the opposite of multiplying by 6 is to divide by 6. So again, because we would end up with 6x, we want to get single x, so I need to divide by 6, and that's what y would equal. Moving on to question 3, it says each number in a list is increased by 10. Tick one box for each statement. Well, for these types of questions, what I would strongly recommend is to just have, let's say, 3 numbers and make it so that the mode is a number. Let's go for 1, 2 and 3, and then increase everything by 10. So that would be 10, 20 and 30. Then what you can then do is answer these particular questions based on these 3 numbers that we have. But in terms of the options we should have is that the mode is increased by 10. Well, that is going to be true. The median is increased by 10. That's also going to be true. Or the range is going to stay the same. Another alternative you can do is just imagine that you've got a party and in 10 years time the same people arrive. So is the mode going to be the same, or is it going to be increased by 10? It's going to be increased by 10. Is the middle age going to be increased by 10? Yes. Is the range of the people going to be the same? Yes. So that's not seen an increase. Moving on to question 4, it says write down the missing term in the geometric progression. So for this, all we need to do is to see what the multiplier is from 1 to 4. So I'm multiplying by 4. So to find the missing number, I've got to do 16 times 4. Which, if you work that out, is going to give you an answer of 64. So our missing number is 64. Moving on to question 4, it says a Fibonacci sequence begins 5 minus 9. The sequence is continued by adding the previous 2 terms, and we need to work out the next 2 terms. So to find this term here, what I need to do is I need to do 5 plus minus 9, which gives me an answer of minus 4. And then to find this number, I'm going to do minus 9 plus minus 4, which gives me an answer of minus 13. So my 2 numbers I need to write down are minus 4 and minus 13. Moving on to question 5, it says here is a solid prism, and the question is asking how many faces does this prism have? And the answer is going to be, in terms of counting all the sides, it's going to equal 8. Because we've got 6 around the sides and then 2 faces, 2 front faces. Moving on to question 5b, it says a prism has a volume of 3,500 cubic centimeters and a length of 20 centimeters. Work out the area of the cross section of the prism. So for this, just want to make sure that the units are the same, which we're working in centimeters. That's fine. So the volume is equal to the cross sectional area multiplied by the length. So if the volume is 3,500 and the area, which I'm just going to call x, is x, multiplied that by 20. So to find out what x is, I just need to do 3,500 divided by 20. So if I cancel a 0, I end up with 350 divided by 2, and half of 350 is 175. Moving on to question 6, it says work out 1 1/5 take away 3/10. So the first thing I need to do here is convert 1 1/5 into a mixed number. So that's going to be 1 times 5, which is 5, plus 1, which is 6. So it's going to be 6 over 5 minus 3 over 10. And then I want a common denominator, which my common denominator here I'm going to choose is 10. So I need to multiply this first fraction by 2. So that's going to be 12 over 10 minus 3 over 10, which once the denominators are the same, I just take away the numerators, giving me a final answer of 9 over 10. Moving on to question 7, it says a large circle and a small circle are drawn. The radius of the large circle is 12 centimeters, and the radius of the large circle to the radius of the small circle is 4:1. And the question is asking us to work out the shaded area, giving our answer in terms of pi. So if the large radius is 12 centimeters and that equals 4 parts, then the small radius, which is equal to 1 part of the ratio. So from this, what we then establish that 1 part is going to equal 3 centimeters. So the radius of the small circle is going to be 3 centimeters. Now from this, and using this information, I can then work out what the areas of each of the circles are. So the area of the large circle is going to be equal to 12 squared times pi, which is 144 pi. The small circle area is going to be 3 squared times pi, which gives me an area of 9 pi. So all that's left for me to then do is take away the two areas. So the shaded area is going to be 144 pi minus 9 pi, giving me an answer of 135 pi in terms of pi. And there we go. So moving on to question 8a, it says in this part assume each person works at the same rate. 10 people can complete a job in 9 hours. If 15 people work at the same job, how many hours will it take to complete the job? Now for this question, what we need to do is we need to work out the total time for the job. So in other words, if one person had to do this job, how long would it take? And to do that, what we need to do is use the first bit of information that's given, and that's going to be 10 lots of 9 hours, which gives us an answer of 90 hours. So this is a 90-hour job, and we want to know how long will it take for 15 people to complete. So for this, we just need to do 90 divided by 15, and that gives me an answer of 6 hours. For 8b, it then says, in fact, of the 15 people, 6 people work at a slower rate and 9 people work at a faster rate. What does this mean about the number of hours it will take to complete the job? Now for this, because we don't know how slow those 6 people were taking or how fast those 9 people were taking, then it's going to be near impossible to say what the actual answer is, or whether the job will be done quicker than 6 hours or less than 6 hours. So moving on to question 9, it is asking us to work out the values of a and b. Now for this, what we need to establish is that the top numbers will all equal what it should. So here what we have is a plus 1 equals 5. So if a plus 1 equals 5, a is going to equal 4. And then looking at the bottom numbers, we've got 2 plus 3b equals 20. So solving this equation, we take away the 2, in which we're left with 3b equals 18, giving us an answer of b equals 6. So we have a equals 4 and b equals 6. Moving on to question 10, it says Clive owns 2 coffee shops, A and B. Out of the 150 people, 18 people use both shops, 46% use shop A, and 2/5 use shop B only. Complete the Venn diagram to represent the information. So if I just zoom out just so we can see all of this in all its entirety, then what I know is that 80 people use both shops. So our middle number is going to be 18. Now 46% people use shop A. So if I then work out what 46% of 150 is, well, 10% is equal to 15. 1% is going to equal 1.5. So 6% is going to be 6 lots of 1.5, which gives me an answer of 9 people. So, and if 10% is 15, then 40% is going to be 4 lots of 15, which is 60. So the number of people that use shop A is going to be 69. And so we already know that 18 of those use shop B as well. So if I take away 18 from that, then I'm left with a total of 51. So 51 people just use shop A. Using the second bit of information, I then want to work out what 2/5 of 150 are. So here I divide 150 by 5 and then multiply by 2, giving me an answer of 60. So 60 people just use shop B. Then to work out the bit that's left, all I then need to do is just do 150 minus 51 minus 18 minus 60, and that gives me an answer of 21. And there is my completed Venn diagram. Moving on to question 11, it says construct a region that lies within 4 centimeters of the line. Now for this particular question, what you need to do is you need to draw 2 circles with a radius of 4 centimeters from each of the ends of the line. And then once you've drawn your 2 circles, you then want to join the circles up with straight lines, so you end up with something that looks like this. Then moving on to question 12a, it says convert 27 over 11 into a reoccurring decimal. So for this, what we need to do is you need to use a little bit of long division. So if I set up my bus stop here, so what we then have is 11 goes into 27, or goes into 2 0, so carry the 2. 11 goes into 27 2 times with a remainder of 5, and I add a 0. And then how many 11s go into 50? Well, that's going to be 4, remainder 6. How many 11s go into 60? That's going to be 5, remainder 5. And again, you can see that this is just going to keep repeating in terms of the remainders that I have, in which what's going to happen is I'm just going to keep getting that pattern of 4, 5, giving me an answer of a reoccurring decimal of 2.45 recurring. For question 12b, it says convert 0.15 into a fraction. So the first thing we need to do is make this equal to x. And then what we need to do is multiply both sides by a power of 10, so that we have by 2 separate equations, so that we have the same number of numbers after the decimal point. So if I multiply both sides by 10, I end up with 1.5 recurring, and if I multiply those 2 sides by 10 again, so I get 100x, I get 15.5 recurring. Now using those 2 lines, I get 100x equals 15.5 recurring, and 10x equals 1.5 recurring, and if I take the 2 equations away from each other, I end up with 90x equals 14. I then take the 90 over, so I get x equals 14 over 90, which simplifies to give me 7 over 45, and there is my answer. Moving on to question 13a, it says by rounding each number to one significant figure, estimate the value of root 401 plus 1.9 cubed over sine 58.7. So for this, what we establish is that if we round root 41 to the nearest square number, that's going to give me root 400, plus rounding 1.9 gives me 2, so that becomes 2 cubed, and cos of 60 equals these. So what I need to do is now work out the values of these. Well, square root of 400 is 20, 2 cubed is 8, and cos 60 is 0.5. So what we get is 28 divided by 0.5. How many halves are there in 28? Well, that's going to give me 56. Moving on to question 13b, it says here is a triangle. Sam attempts to find the value of cos x using the cosine rule. Here is his working, and the question we need to establish is what are the two errors. Well, the two errors that you should be able to spot is the fact that this here should be a minus. And the next thing we then should spot is that 3 squared plus 7 squared should be 9 plus 49, which gives me an answer of 58, not 10 squared, which is 100. So there, writing this in any way that you wish would be the two mistakes that Sam has made. Moving on to question 14, it says enlarge the triangle PQR by a scale factor of minus 1/3 with centre of 0, 0. So if I just zoom out to begin with, like so, what we then need to do is draw our projection lines, and from this we can then work out where our new shape goes. Now, from drawing our projection lines and dividing the lengths by 3, you should find that your triangle is here needs to be 1/3 smaller than the original triangle. You don't necessarily need to shade it, but this point here is at -3, -1. This point here is at 0, -3, and this point here is at -3, -3. And again, make sure that you're drawing your projection lines just to make sure that your transformed triangle is in the right place. Now, moving on to question 15a, it says solve the inequality of 20 minus 5x is less or equal to 30. Now, there's two ways in which you can do this. I'll do this one way. So here we've got 20 minus 5x is less or equal to 30. So if we take away 20 from both sides, we end up with minus 5x is less or equal to 10. Now, one of the rules of inequalities is when you are solving an inequality that if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to reverse the sign of the inequality. So if I then divide both sides by -5, then what I'm going to end up with is x, and then change the inequality sign, and that's going to give me an answer of -2. So that's one possible answer you could have. Now, my preferred way of solving these particular questions is when you've got a negative x, take it to the other side. So this is going to be the same as 30 plus 5x, and then if I take away the 30, end up with -10 is less or equal to 5x, and then divide the 5, in which I get -2 is less or equal to x. So any of those two answers would be absolutely fine for your 3 marks for that particular question. For question 5b, it says represent x is greater than -1. So what we need to do is draw a circle at -1. We don't shade it because it can't equal that number, and we draw a little arrow pointing to the right. For question 16, it says when w is truncated, the answer is 8. Sacher writes the error interval due to truncation as w is between 7.5 and 8.5, inclusive of 8.5. Give a reason why Sacher is wrong and state the correct error interval for w. So the reason why Sacher is wrong is because Sacher has rounded to 1 decimal place in terms of the error interval, in which that the correct error interval should be when you're truncating is going to be 8 to 9. So it's going to be either 8.0 all the way up to 8.9 recurring. Now, because there is a less than inequality at the second, we can then write that as 8 to 9. Moving on to question 17a, it says that a circle has a centre of 0 and a circumference of 36 pi. Work out the equation of the circle. Well, if c equals 36 pi, then c equals pi times the diameter. So the diameter of this circle is 36 centimeters, so therefore the radius is going to be 18 centimeters. Now the equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared when the center is 0 of x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So all we then need to do is replace r with 18, giving me an answer of x squared plus y squared equals 18 squared, or you can write it as x squared plus y squared equals 324. So any of those two would be fine for the 2 marks. Moving on to question 17b, it says point J has coordinates of 15, 0 and point K has a coordinate of 30, minus 5. Work out the equation of a straight line through J and K. So for this, what we can do, and again we can do this in one of 2 ways, but the first thing we need to do is find the gradient of JK. Now for this we use the formula of m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's the difference in the y over the difference in the x. So for this I get minus 5 and 30, and I get minus 0 minus 15. So working this out, I get minus 5 over 15, which gives me a gradient value of minus 1/3. So m equals minus 1 over 3. Now from this you could do one of 2 ways. You can either use y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, or you can use y equals mx plus c. Now if you use y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, you're going to need to know one of the coordinates. So I'm going to use this coordinate here as my x1, y1. So I get y minus 0 equals minus 1/3 x minus 15. Then if I simplify all of that, I get y equals minus 1/3 x. Minus 1/3 times 15 is going to give me positive 5. So there is one equation using that method. If I use y equals mx plus c, I need to work out what c is. So I end up with, using this coordinate again, I get 0 equals minus 1/3 times 15 plus c, in which I get 0 equals minus 5 plus c. So therefore c is going to equal 5. And once I've got my m value and my c value, I combine those 2 things into y equals mx plus c, giving me the equation of minus 1/3 x plus 5. Oh, don't know why I've put 15 there. Let's change that to a 5. Moving on to question 18, it says express x squared plus 8x minus 5 in the form of x plus a all squared minus b. So in other words, what we need to do is use completing the square. So again, several ways in which you can do this, but I always prefer open up my bracket, halve the coefficient of x, so I've got plus 4, take the constant, which is minus 5, and I take away whatever digit is inside the bracket squared, so it's going to be minus 4 squared. So that's going to give me x plus 4 squared minus 5 minus 16, giving me a final answer of x plus 4 squared minus 21. It then says for 18b, a curve has the equation of y equals x minus 7 squared plus 8. Write down the coordinates of the turning point. Well, the turning point, the x-ordinate is the value of x that makes that bracket equal to 0. So that's going to be 7. And the y-ordinate is whatever numbers outside the bracket, which is positive 8, giving me an answer of 7, 8. Moving on to question 9a, it says expand and simplify these triple brackets. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to expand these 2 brackets here. Now if I do that, then what I end up with is I end up with 6x squared plus 8x plus 9x plus 12. And if I simplify that, I get x plus 2 lots of x plus 2, 6x squared plus 17x plus 12. Oh, don't know what number that is. And then all that's left me to then do is to expand this out in which if I expand all of that out, I end up with x cubed plus 17x squared plus 12x, and then 12x squared plus 34x plus 24. Then if I add those two lines up, I should end up with a sort of answer of x cubed, or I should say 6x cubed. That should be there. Let me just change that. And I should end up with 6x cubed plus 29x squared plus 46x plus 24. And there is my answer for that question. Now moving on to question 19b, it says use your answer in part A to work out what 102 times 203 times 304 is. Now if we look back at question 19a, then what I know is x plus 2 multiplied by 2x plus 3 and 3x plus 4. Now comparing this to this, then what I establish is that x is going to equal 100. Now from this, if I know that this equals 6x cubed plus 29x squared plus 46x plus 24. Now x cubed is going to be 100 cubed, so that's going to be 100 times 100 times 100, which is going to give us one with 6 zeros, and x squared is going to be 100 squared, so that's going to be 100 times 10 times 10, and x is just 100. So substituting those numbers in, I get 6 lots of 1 million, and that's right. And I'm going to have 29 times 10,000 plus 46 times 100 plus 24. So then working that out, I end up with 6 million. I end up with 29,000. So 29 times 10,000 is going to give me 290,000. I get 46 times 100 is going to give me 4,600. And I've got 24. So from this, what I can then do is work out what all of those add up to become. So let me just make sure, yeah. And so adding all of those up, I'm going to get an answer of 4264926. So from this then, what I then write is my answer is 6294624. Now it's really important that you do use your answer in part A, so you won't get any marks if you actually work out what those 3-digit numbers multiplied together are using a grid method or any other method apart from using part A. Moving on to question 28, it says for us to show that the square root of 363 over the root 3 simplifies to be an integer. Well, one of the rules of surds is when you're dividing, you combine the surds, so that's going to be the square root of 363 divided by 3. If I divide the numerator by 3, I get 121, and square root of 121 is 11, which is an integer. Moving on to question 20b, it says rationalize the denominator to simplify 20 over root 5. So for this, what I need to do is multiply both the numerator and the denominator by root 5. And what that's going to be to give me is that's going to give me 20 root 5 over root 25, which is 20 root 5 over 5. Then if I cancel the 20 and the 5, so that's going to give me 4, giving me an answer of 4 root 5. Moving on to question 21, it says here is a sketch of the graph of y equals tan x. You are given that tan 78.69 equals 5, And the question is asking us to work out the value of x where tan x equals 5 between those regions. So if I just draw a line here, and that's my line of 5, then this number here, this distance I should say, is 78.69. So then to work out what this number is here, I just need 2, and if this distance here is also 78.69, then that point there is going to be 180 plus 78.69. So if I then do 180 plus 78.69, add that up, I should get an answer of 258.69. So that's my answer for part A. For part B, it then says work out the two values for where tan x equals minus 5. So if I just get rid of all of this working out, because I'm going to need to use this all again in terms of the sketch of the graph, then what I know is that if I draw a line of of y equals minus 5, that's looking at this region here. Now, looking at this, what I know is that the distance between where it's 0 to the point of interest, which is this point here, that distance there is 78.69, and so is this distance here is also 78.69. So to work out the two values, what I need to do is I need to do 180 minus 78.69, which if I worked out gives me an answer of 101.31 degrees. And I also then need to do 360 take away 78.69, which gives me an answer of 281.31 degrees. So those are my two answers for B. Moving on to question 22, it says match each expression on the left to the correct expression on the right. One has been done for you. So if I know that x equals 7 to the n, then this 7x to the 2n is the same as 7n squared, and if 7n is x, then that's going to be the same as x squared. So this one here needs to join up with this here. Now when I've got 7n to the plus 7 to the power of n plus 1, then that is the same as 7n multiplied by 7 to the 1. Now if 7n is x, that's the same as 7 times x, which is the same as 7x. So that needs to match up with this one here. Then finally, for the third one, I've got 7 to the power of a half n. Well, again, I can write that as 7n to the half, and that is the same as x to the half. And what does a power of a half represent? Well, it represents the square root of x. So here I need to join this one up with this one here. Moving on to question 23, it says in each part the graph shows that a transformation of the graph of y equals x squared. Write down the equation of the graph shown. So this has been shifted up by 2, and so what I then need to do is do the function of x plus 2. So if f of x equals x squared, then this graph here is going to be x squared plus 2. So I just need to write y equals x squared plus 2. Then for this next one, it says write down the equation. This has been reflected on the x-axis. So this is in terms of graph transformations is where I minus f of x. So again, if y equals f of x and y equals x squared, then f of x equals x squared. So the equation of this line here is going to be y minus x squared. Then for this one, this has been shifted 3 places to the right, so I've added 3. So this is where I would need to take away 3. So it would be x squared minus 3. So for this one, we just need to shift it along 3 squares. And so that's going to give me an answer of, and it's actually the function that's been shifted. So let me just correct this in the fact that we should have f of x minus 3. So this is going to be x minus 3 squared. And there we go.